What is up, everyone? This is technically the NFL DFS kickoff show, but it's not really the NFL DFS kickoff show. This is a Thanksgiving extravaganza. I am joined.
Like some confetti or something.
Yeah, come on, Joe Bonk. We need to up our game. I am joined by the DFS Den crew. For anybody that watches the DFS kickoff show on Thursday, it should not surprise you that Joe the Brain Matz is running late, but luckily Dave, Eddy, and Chris Robin are here. Guys, what's going on?
Just excited for a free slate of football this week. Thanksgiving is always fun. I mean, for DFS purposes, it's kind of a pain in the ass with the short slate, but at the same time, it's kind of fun,
Yeah, you ask him a question, his first comment is he complains. It's a joy, Today
it's a Thanksgiving tradition.
Yeah, especially, and today is one of the biggest bar nights of the year. And I'm in my late 30s, and I remember as a youngster in my, early to mid 20s, that's all you thought about. Let's go out, let's stay out till 3 a.m, 4 a.m. You roll out of bed, kind of still, inebriated in the morning, and boom, it's right into football. But nowadays I'm drinking ice water at 7:30 at night, and I'm looking forward to going to bed at a reasonable time.
Yeah,
and, getting up
and I got a Fago.
Nothing more Detroit than having a Fago on a Wednesday night. But thanks for having us, Keith. I know this is your time, your broadcast, and what better way to kick this thing off than talking DFS and the Lions are first up. That's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, baby.
I am excited. So it's a pretty good slate. It helps a lot when the Lions are good. The Cowboys are good, and then we get one of the best teams in football for the night game. Again, I was really excited because we were going to be all four together, and eventually we will be all four together for the first time. But Joe Matz, he's a diva. He likes to show up late and just make his grand entrance. But real quickly before we get into this, favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Oh man,
cheesy potatoes, mashed potatoes. I mean, I saw a comment in Gator J. Can we get Chris to talk more than Keith? Is that possible?
that will happen naturally.
Gator J.
Are they making fun of Keith or saying I don't know Gator J that much? Hey Gator, but to me, I saw a comment or it was a tweet, and someone said there's going to be no cheese. There's no cheese in my house at Thanksgiving, and I'm thinking, well, what the heck? I mean, cheesy potatoes is unbelievable, especially the frozen hash browns kind, right? You can do cubed and all kinds of stuff, but the frozen grated hash browns, cheesy potatoes, mashed potatoes, green bean. I mean, I do everything. I pile it together. You got to dig through a layer of food to get to the second layer, all on one plate. So I'm not a weirdo. The food can touch whatever, but cheesy potatoes.
I like to keep mine separated. But Dave, what's your favorite?
I'm probably just gonna go with like some stuffing, right? But I like to mix mine in with some gravy. I don't know if that's weird, but
not in the South, definitely.
I mean, Thanksgiving to me, like Chris said, kind of it's kind of one plate. I mean, I'll take everything, throw it on a plate, and it ends up just kind of getting like mixed together, unintentionally, but also kind of intentionally.
I'm a deep fried turkey guy. About a decade ago, my dad started doing deep fried turkeys. Once you go deep fried, you're never going back. It's unbelievable. Make sure the turkey is all the way thawed. That was the one lesson we learned the second year the hard way. My dad would probably kill me for saying that, but there was a mini fire. It was pretty rough, but the food's unbelievable. Unfortunately, I'm not having a deep fried turkey tomorrow. My wonderful, beautiful wife is baking a turkey because her family is from up north, from the Massachusetts area. They like baked turkeys, but my dad, being the hero that he is going to deep fry Turkey Friday before they go out of town and bring it by for me. So God bless my father. But I know you guys are excited to talk about this game. I'm excited to see this game. Let's get right into it with the Detroit Lions. The Green Bay Packers are going to Detroit. I think a lot of people thought this game was going to be more of a NFC Central like division is on the line deal at the beginning of the year, but the Lions are rolling, man. And they're really, I mean, I guess you could say the Vikings are technically still, in the thick of it, a contender. I just think the Lions are a much better team. than any of the other teams in that division. And again, outside of the Eagles and Niners, I think there's definitely one tier in the NFC that are those three teams, and then there's everybody below. But just kind of how do you guys feel about the Lions? I know it's been kind of a magical season for you guys.
I mean, it's tough because it sounds crazy, but literally, I mean, I'm 41 years old, and this is the only time that as an adult that the Lions have been, worth a shit. I mean, we've had a season here, we've had a season there, like 2013, we had a pretty good team, but nothing comes of it. So it's really weird because, you take some other teams, like we'll say the Chiefs, right? Like if the Chiefs have a season and they only win one playoff game, it's a disappointment. Right. If the Lions win a playoff game, there's going to be a fucking parade down Woodward Avenue, where, so it's just crazy that, we've endured so many bad times. And granted, we're only 8-2. It's not like anything's happened. But, feels safe to say that we're going to make the playoffs. Looks like we're going to probably win the division. So we're going to have a home game. Home playoff game.
No chance to get a bye, right? Like I think there's still legitimate chance.
Let's we're 8-2.
Pump the brakes. I know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to jinx it.
We're new to all this, so it'll be nice for us if we get a home playoff game. We'll see what happens. I mean, I would expect we would win that game. Then we get to the divisional round, let's say, and then we see what happens. So as long as we get a playoff win this year, I'll be happy. Anything on top of that as a Lions fan is going to be just icing on the cake. So we'll see.
Well, let's start with you guys because y'all obviously know the Lions very well. Which Lions players are you really looking at for this game for the DFS Thursday slate?
Well, right off the bat, I'm going to put all my focus on, in terms of like owner. Let me be the DFS guy for a minute. When you look at like ownership percentages and all that stuff, Amon-Ra is going to be one of the most highly owned players of the whole slate. Him and CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard and that. But like even David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. But to be like, if you want to like get in under the ownership percentages and a guy who can score in a hurry, it's got to be the rookie, the second-year kid Jameson Williams. As he's starting to come on, right? We saw it a few weeks ago. He's running down the field. He's blocking. That's what the offensive coordinator and the wide receivers coach have asked of him, because everybody here in the Metro Detroit area is like, what's going on with Jameson? You pick him, you make the trade, you draft him 12th, and what's going on? We're not seeing a lot of him. But behind the scenes, we just see the smiling face, and he's at the Red Wings games, and he's ringing the bell, and he's throwing octopus on the, on the ice, and it's all like sunshine and rainbows. But on the field, Lions are winning, they're scoring points, but he's not really in on the action. The last few weeks, they're starting to, he's starting to get more snap share, more targets. And then last week, boom, he scores that touchdown. And that was what started the comeback against the Bears. And boom, they're off and rolling. So to me, personally, it's got to be Jameson Williams. He's only $5,300 on Fanduel. And when you look at the Green Bay Packers, they're on paper, they're 6th overall DVP, but this lineup is just beat up pretty bad. I mean, half their roster, when you look at offensively, it's pretty nasty. Their stud Jair Alexander has missed 2 games. He's still, questionable. And again, it's a short week, right? It's a Thursday game. It starts very early. And to be fair, it's not, again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Dave's already saying we're winning playoff games and stuff. I care about just win on Thanksgiving. And to be fair, everybody that's made fun of us over the years is, Lions treat the Thanksgiving Day game like the Super Bowl. You're damn right. And I don't care if we're undefeated or didn't have a win at all. Thanksgiving is what it's all about, at least here in the Metro Detroit area. And Keith, all the way back to tie this thing up in a bow, give me Jameson Williams, to maybe have I'm going to say, let's say Jameson Williams has his first multi-touchdown game of his young career here. And again, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, the whole roster is going to be highly owned. And I think we can sneak one over with the young kid, Jay Will.
Dave, do you think, golf's been so incredible indoors at home at Detroit and his time there? Though I'm looking at the running backs, like they've been really cooking. Gibbs obviously has just been a supernova the last couple of weeks, but Montgomery's still there too, right? Like he seems to be getting most of the carries too, like actually on the goal line when you get right there. Is there a back you would rather have of the two, or are you like looking at golf? Would you consider him in the slate? Because I know there's some other plays that might be a little bit better. You're muted, buddy.
Yep, I was. So a question like that can be answered a variety of different ways from DFS purpose, right? When we talk about the running backs, if we're talking from an MME perspective, I actually prefer Montgomery. I think he's going to be lower owned. And, if I look at the schedule adjusted fantasy points here, Green Bay top 10 against quarterbacks, top 10 against wide receivers, top 10 against quarterbacks, tight ends. But running backs they're 19th. And, the Lions, in their gut, what they like to do is they want to run the ball. If they didn't have to throw the ball at all, they probably would be just fine with that, they like to run play action off the run game, but they would be happy to run the ball 50 times tomorrow if they could. So, yeah, I think, running backs are interesting, but I like Montgomery for MME because Gibbs is going to be where the ownership goes. So I'm not saying Gibbs is a bad play tomorrow. On a 3-game slate, any starting running back is more than viable here. But I like Montgomery for MME. I would prefer Gibbs for cash. I think that, we've seen that since Montgomery got hurt, Gibbs really, stepped up in his absence. We didn't know if he was because we hadn't seen him do it yet. And then since they've been back together, I thought that we would go back to see Montgomery getting, just a ton of carries. And if I go back here and I take a look, since he's been back, Montgomery's had 12 carries. Prior to that, he hadn't had less than 16. So we're seeing a lot more, Gibbs, even though Montgomery's still well in the mix. But, a lot of that's in the passing game there as well, obviously. But the carries have been roughly split. Outside of that, like Chris said, Amon-Ra St. Brown, amazing play for cash. He's a lock for me this week in cash. For MME, I mean, the target share between him and CeeDee Lamb, one of those two is probably going to, lead this slate in targets and, opportunities, maybe points. So I think that's really interesting. And then I'm just off of the golf stuff. We talk about the Lions, but the Packers here are going to be interesting. I don't think this is going to be a low-scoring game. We look at, the Detroit defense and, fantasy-wise, 27.
You can throw on them for sure. Like, they're great run defense, yes. But you can absolutely throw on the Lions.
Yeah, they are a pass funnel. 27th schedule adjusted fantasy points to quarterbacks, 11th against running backs, a little higher than I would have guessed. Looking here, 20th against receivers, 21st against tight ends. We've got a really nice punt play, I think, this week. Got to find his name here real quick. Tucker Kraft is going to be starting with Musgrave out. $2,500 on.
Is that with a K or a C?
With a K, like the cheese.
All right.
So he's a lock for me in cash. MME, I don't know how popular it's going to be. I need to kind of read the room a little bit and see how popular he's going to be for MME because he's so cheap and on any size slate, those full punt tight ends are valuable. On a 3-game slate, I think it's even more so because now I can play, Dak, CD, and Amon-Ra in the same lineup because I can punt with, some other guys that we'll talk about as well. But this guy is going to be a gold mine, and if he gets me 1 or 2 points, let's just say I don't really give a shit because a full punt tight end, you have to be willing to accept he could get a 0.
Yeah, like for DraftKings. I love a lot of the Lions guys. I just don't love their price. Like, to me, there's other options just a little bit either cheaper or a little bit more expensive that I feel a little bit better about, like their volume and what they're going to get. I like the Jameson Williams play a lot. He is definitely somebody I'm going to put in some lineups on DK. On the other side, though, I do like potentially playing Jordan Love.
Yeah.
And Jaden Reed is going to be in almost every lineup. Like, I've been talking about this guy for 6 weeks. I don't really understand why they're not giving him the ball more than they are. He's averaging about 4.6 touches per game the last 5 games, but back-to-back 19-point games, scored 9 points or more. I think it's in now 6 of 7 games. And he's still at a very reasonable price. Like, they have not really raised his price as much as you would think. And now he's running the ball too. Like, now they're actually giving him multiple rush attempts. I think it's 3 out of the last 4 games. So what's up, Kelly? And I Reed is a definite play for me. Absolutely. But Love is the one I'm considering, especially in MME. I'm going to have some lineups with Love because of his price. And again, the Lions are going to score points. That's another reason why their pass numbers are not great. We've seen this with the Eagles in years past. The Niners
This
or another
year.
team. Yeah, I mean, it's just you get up, you score points, teams throw. So I mean that's what happens, and I can definitely see that happening again this Sunday. I am a little worried though about the point you made, Dave, that the Lions may just try to run it down their throat, which you can do on Green Bay, and teams have done this year. But I still like those guys on that side. What Packers are you guys looking at this week?
Well, I mean, to be fair, like the running game does set up their play action,
right.
which is the reason that the Lions lead the league in explosive plays. So plays of 20 yards or more, which to Chris's point, that's a huge nod to a guy like Jameson Williams. But I mean, Jordan Love is my favorite MME quarterback of the week. I think the ownership is probably going to be on Purdy. It's definitely going to be on Dak. I mean, the matchup for Dak that's just ridiculous. So yeah, so I think it's kind of hard to play Dak and MME and a small slate even, because now how do you get unique? It's
right.
Everyone's playing the same stuff. So I feel like the pivot to Jordan Love is probably the way to go. Now, the problem with Jordan Love that we've seen is he hasn't been bad for a cash quarterback. But when we look at his numbers for MME, 2.5, 3x is the minimum of what we want. And that's what we've been getting, 3.5x last time against Detroit. So, he doesn't have that same ceiling, you don't think, as Dak. Like Dak could go out and get us 5 or 6x and nobody would be too shocked. But I do like, Aaron Jones is going to be out. So I think that will funnel more of the passing game there as well. Jordan Love is my favorite guy. I like stacking him with Jaden Reed. Like you said, Jaden Reed to me is such an amazing play. And then give me Romeo Doubs if you want to get a little bit off script a little bit for MME. I never would have thought that Christian Watson would be the guy, right? At the beginning of the year, that's their alpha wide receiver. Now he's the leverage play. You want to play Love with, if you're doing like a 150 milli maker type thing, if you want to go Kraft and Watson with Love, that's probably.
Then you could have Lamb, Brown, you could have whoever you want to. Also, you got a lot of. I'm just saying it gives you a lot of flexibility if that's the stack.
And on a 3-game slate, you also shouldn't be afraid to triple stack. So if you wanted to go Love, like Dobbs, Reed, and Kraft in the 3-game slate, I mean, if the Lions game. Lions Packers, if they score 65 points and the other teams sit around 40, a triple stack with a double bring back. You bring back Gibbs and you bring back St. Brown. You've got 6 of the 9 spots tied up in that one game. If that game goes crazy and shoots out and the other games are a little bit iffy, that's how you can win as well. So don't be afraid to do that.
Chris, you got anything else you want to add to this game before we move on to the second one?
Yeah, I'll be quick and we'll keep it moving. As the bottom of the barrel guy, Aaron Jones is officially inactive. It came out around 4:26, 4:30 Eastern time. Taylor is going to be an option. Dontavian Wicks is going to be an option. But again, Dontavian Wicks, he's questionable. He needs to get off.
I don't think Wicks plays. Just FYI.
With the questionable tag. If he does, fingers crossed, just for the heck of it, 5 targets, 3 receptions. And when you look at Taylor, there's so many moving parts. And again, this Green Bay game, right? We can actually put ourselves in a spot where we stack up where we stack Dallas to the hilt, and then we can just mix and match Dobbs and Reeds, and we can put in Wicks and Taylor. Again, double check everything before lock happens. But in a spot like this, because again, we're going to get to it. Dallas, the Dallas game, Detroit and Green Bay is the game everyone's going to sit down and watch, intently. The Washington Dallas game is just going to be on while everybody's eating and not even watching,
taking that nap after
because
meal.
it's going to be so heavily tilted one way. But there's a lot of different angles to take on the Green Bay side of things. And again, I would never wish any ill will, but with injuries opens up a whole wide array of things we can do, in an MME. And again, that $1, it's like 150 max, that $1, there's 100,000 people in there. If Wicks plays, might want to look that way. Taylor, so there's so many moving parts, but that's where I'm looking as well. Dave said it pretty well.
Dave, you got some questions you want to get to before we move on to that next game?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, perfect. Going on to, look what the cat drug in. Glad you could join us, Joe Matz. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. What was going on? Another fire alarm being pulled at the school?
Oh, no. Thankfully, a third of the kids are already gone on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so that wasn't too bad today. Just more diabetic dogs,
Diabetic dogs. You're doing the Lord's work. We just kind of finished the Green Bay Detroit game. Give me the one guy you're looking at in that game for this slate, or that game for this DFS slate.
And why is it Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I mean, any game Amon-Ra St. Brown is, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Right.
I'm sure you guys covered him well. One little tidbit that I found was that Green Bay 29th in DVOA against deep passes. Ooh. So that's always like a Jameson Williams flyer sign.
Hey, Chris.
MME, Jameson
average
Williams.
Bear, man.
It's crazy. We just get lucky and guess shit all the time, Keith. But we don't really know what we're doing. We just get lucky.
I know better than that. So the team that everybody loves to root against is playing at the 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock game as Washington goes into Dallas. This is a game that it's really hard not to want to stack Dak and CD Lamb in a 3-game slate. I just real quickly, Washington, since their bye, which remember that was when they traded away their defenders. Yeah. Tyrod Taylor, 21.66 points, season high. Jalen Hurts, 31.36 points, season high. Geno Smith, 27.06 points, season high. And then even Tommy DeVito, 22.54 points, his season high. Me and Joe talked about this when they made the trades that, boy, is it good now to jump on Washington. Because they were horrible at defending the pass when they were getting pressure, like consistent pressure with those two great pass rushers. And now they can't get pressure. So, and then on top of that, Dak's averaging almost 30 points a game the last 3 weeks. And then Lamb on the other side of it, his last 5 games, we talk about a heater, 12 targets per, 9.4 receptions, and 131 receiving yards per game. And this is a secondary that just let Darius Slayton torch him. You're a Giants fan, Joe Matz. What did you think the odds of that with Tommy DeVito were?
I mean, him getting sacked 9 times, despite them trading away their ends, was the least surprising thing that happened on Sunday for me. I thought, this is a defense you can take advantage of. I didn't think DeVito and co would be able to pull that off, but it's like you said, this team is it's like free money with them. They're dead last down DVOA against the pass. And to that CD Lamb point, according to FTN stuff, dead last in yards allowed to number 1 receivers this year. So I would love to be able to say, like, hey, here's some great reason not to go with Dak and CD, especially because I would love for them to fail on Thanksgiving. But I don't see it at all. Like, there's no reason for me not to want to stack those guys.
Dave, you were just talking about the triple stack. Would you like putting Cooks and say, Ferguson, Lamb with Dak, or getting more creative, or are you trying to maybe even look the other way? I do worry about Washington with Dallas's pass rush. Like, what is Howard going to be able to do?
Well, so you have the problem where on a 3-game slate, when you have such an obvious matchup here and you have such an obvious play, that you've got to find a way to not, do exactly what everybody else does. So you've got a couple options. Number 1, either you just straight up lock Dak in and say, I'm playing Dak in 100% of my MME, and I'm just going to hope to mix and match the combinations and get it right. And then even when you do that, if they play Dak, who's everyone going to put him with? They're going to all put him with Lamb. So, you also then have the option of saying, well, maybe I don't want to fade Dak, but maybe I want to fade Lamb, or maybe I want to go really underweight on him. And then again, you can quadruple stack this if you really want to, you know what I mean? Like, you can go, Dak with Lamb, Cooks, and Ferguson, or you can throw Pollard in there. You can throw Gallup in there. What you shouldn't do probably is you probably shouldn't just go Dak, Lamb, and Ferguson and then move on, because you're just going to rinse and repeat what everybody else does. And if you're fine with like min cashing, then that's fine. Then that's a good route to go. But if you're not trying to min cash, you've got to find a way to get unique. Simplest way to do it is just not to play them. But you also may just bury yourself, So I think with the matchup here, like we said, they're dead last schedule adjusted points to quarterbacks, dead last to wide receivers as well. I think it's hard to get away from them. So you've got to find ways to say, you know what, if I'm going to play a lineup with Dak and Lamb in it, then I'm not going to play Zach Charbonnet, or I'm not going to play CMC or Amon-Ra. You just got to get different if that's the route you want to go. Don't do what everyone else is going to do there.
Chris, what bottom of the barrel guys are you looking at from the Dallas side of it?
It's got to be
interest in Dottle.
Yeah, Rico Dottle. He's been in. I've mentioned him every week which has been like the last 3 weeks where Dallas has been such a heavy favorite and they've won by so many points. Rico Dowdle is getting some game action. I don't care if I rarely use the term garbage time. I don't know why I dislike it so much, because it's playing time is playing time, and to me. To me, garbage time is I don't know how else to put it. I just dislike the word. It's just a weird DFS buzzword. But when you look at Rico Dowdle, he's getting action. And again, Tony Pollard finally found the end zone last week for the first time in a long time. And in a game like this, and I'm going to be straightforward with folks. I have the final score, Dallas winning this one 38-14. So at some point in this game, we're going to see a heavy, skeleton crew for the Dallas Cowboys. So again, obviously, Dave and I talk about this all the time, where it's like, well, you want to play Dak and all the studs and Lamb and Ferguson, right? But in the same way, why don't we fade players in the same game for players in the same game? And we'll avoid that Lamb and Dak rush, and we'll get that skeleton crew worth of guys. And in that form, we can afford putting in, the 2 stud Detroit running backs. We could put David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and put Rico Dowdle in the flex spot. And then you can run it back with, guys from the Sanford DK and JSN and stuff like that. So to me, in this game, everybody is they're already gravitating towards this. I mean, we've gotten a half dozen comment. It's all about Dak and Lamb and Ferguson. And that just tells you where it's not like there's a million people watching here and there's 10,000 comments, but there's not. The 5 or 6 people that have stayed in the comments are mentioning Dak and Ferguson and all this stuff. So that just makes me want to pivot to a guy like Rico, or, Cooks is a good bet. Gallup in a way, in a certain sense. Yeah. Again, you're going to fade a guy like Ferguson for a player on the same team that plays the same position. So you fade Ferguson in favor of Schoonemaker. You fade Tony Pollard.
And then another Michigan Wolverine too.
I was going to say, and where did Schoonemaker go to college?
U of M. And then you pay Tony P for Rico, and you're going to have to, again, everybody's going to be up and around during this game because it's going to be a blowout, but you got to just weather the storm and you'll be okay. Because personally, again, Dallas wins this one 38-14. I have Rico 9 to 10 carries, 35 to 40 yards, averaging about 4.3, 4.4 yards a pop, and a reception or 2 for another 10 or 15 yards. Found the end zone on the ground once, found the end zone in the air once. So who's to say he can't find the end zone again late in the fourth quarter when this thing's already 28-7 or 28-0. So yeah, again,
don't you think on a short week too, it's more likely that if Dallas does get up big, they're going to be more likely to rest their starters than they normally would in that situation? Like, I know I would be really concerned on a short week, having guys out there if you're up multiple touchdowns late in the game.
Yeah, and the Turt resting players, it's a tough thing to talk about when it's a regular season game on Thanksgiving, and again, even if it's 40-0, I still think we see Dak into the fourth quarter, maybe the last few minutes of the game, because these guys are creatures of habit. They need their reps, as they say, and all this stuff. But again, to your point, yes, we could see a case where, Dak is out of the game when the fourth quarter starts and it's just a scrub line and it's the garbage time. And if you've already stacked your studs and you can count on, Terry and Jameson and Amon-Ra, you just need 40 yards and a touchdown from Dowdle, and he's got the whole fourth quarter to do that. So again, maybe this is better suited for betting purposes, right? Or an anytime touchdown,
kind like an overrun. Yeah.
And one more thing I will say is I mentioned it in the comments where you guys were talking. This game, it's got to be about the over as well. The over is cashed in 7 of Washington's last 8 games versus Dallas when they've been on the road. So 7 of the 8 last times, and then again the the over has cashed in 6 of the Cowboys' last 9 games. So I don't know what to do if you want to do anything but the over in this game. And I know Gator said it a moment ago, Dallas could carry this over on their own. It sits at 48.5. I have Dallas to score 38 points. So we just need Washington to score 10.5 points.
Get something in, right?
Yeah, so it's not much. So if you put yourself in the right position, here in DFS or sports betting, you're not asking Washington to do a whole lot. And that's exactly where I want to be.
So on the other side of it, the receivers scare me because Dallas is very good versus wide receivers. And I think what we all agree, Washington's going to be down. They're going to be throwing. We'll see how much time, poor Howell has with that Dallas pass rush. But I love Logan Thomas at his price, 3,500.
There it is.
My man, Eddy has taught me volume is king, right? 33 targets in his last 5 games, 9+ points and 4 or 5. And again, that 3,500, we're right around that 3 times number, just right there. 4+ receptions in 5 straight. And again, this Cowboys team, very good versus wide receivers, not as good versus tight ends, 18th on DK. And that's also why I'm intrigued in Brian Robinson this week. It's the fact that he's been so involved in the passing game. I mean, obviously we know he's put up huge numbers the last 2 weeks, 50.8 points on DK, but 15 targets, 13 receptions, 177 yards in a game that I expect Washington to be down. Howell doesn't have a lot of time. Who are you going to throw to in those situations? Running backs, tight ends, etc. And that's why both of those guys, Diami.
Beautiful play again, right? If they're going to clamp up, Dotson or Terry, and even Curtis Samuel is someone I want in my lineup. He's a gadget guy. He'll come in handy. True. He'll come in handy when they're down 20 or 30 points, if he's active. But Diami Brown's been getting a little bit more involved, and that just speaks volumes to Sam Howell and what he's been able to do in his, taking that next step in his second year here in Washington. So to me, Diami Brown is someone very much on my radar, along with Curtis Samuel. So again, I already have 50, 60 lineups in that dollar thing. So there's not too many weird combos that I haven't already thought about. So to me, Curtis Samuel and Diami Brown make for a nice little 1-2 punch. And then you just build around that. Again, it's one of those things where you take the games out for a minute. It's just football and family. And everybody in the United States, at least, or elsewhere, is around watching TV. And there's no responsibility tonight and even all day tomorrow, really. So you can just really fantasy football, to me, it's always about fun, but to me, it's always about watching the players that you have on your teams, and
giving you a rooting interest, right? Yeah.
And DFS, you can kind of, you can plan your day and how you're going to watch and who you're going to root for and who's going to be there at the. So to me, Thanksgiving DFS is unlike anything. It's what I love the most is Thanksgiving football DFS. And to be fair, there's not much else that beats it.
That's right. Joe Matz is a big Diami Brown fan because last year,
that's right.
And it's literally when I started calling Joe the Brain Matz, week 3 versus Tennessee, he goes, I like Diami Brown for 3,000. And I went, who? He had, I think, 4 catches for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I was like, Joe, I'll never doubt you again. What players from the Washington side are you looking at, Joe?
I'm very much on the same page as you are, Keith, where I was looking at this and, like you said, the volume consistently there for Logan Thomas. That Dallas pass defense, super sound all around. Obviously, QBs don't have a lot of time to pass against them, but giving up touchdowns to tight ends in 4 of their last 6. If Antonio Gibson is out again, then I think you're guaranteed Brian Robinson is staying. It looks like
he's not going to play, right?
Yeah, he hasn't practiced yet, so short week, there's always a chance, but I'd monitor that. But otherwise, Brian Robinson makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think the main thing is don't spend for a Terry McLaurin this week. Because if you're going to take a shot at the wide receivers, I think it's exactly right. Take a shot on the super cheap guys. Because there's not going to be a lot of points to go around, we're all thinking, for Washington in this game. So if you spend, 3,000, 3,500, and you get a touchdown, you're golden. If you're spending 53, 5,500 on a guy, there's better ways to spend your money in this game because I just don't see like a Terry McLaurin 100-yard game. So I think that the high floor guys are definitely Thomas and Robinson. And then I think you can take those shots on like a Diami Brown. I would just definitely steer clear of probably anyone over 4,500 in that offense outside of Brian Robinson.
And Terry's only scored twice. You're good. Yeah. It's shocking to me. Scary Terry's really just Terry McLaurin. I mean, he's just a regular, just a jag. I mean, I hate that term too. Maybe I'm just an old man now, but Terry McLaurin is just he's a competent wide receiver. He's not a superstar.
Had an issue with it. He had that toe injury, like turf toe at the beginning of the year. From
those are nasty.
That's what everything I've read is. It's awful and it lingers and it's something until you truly rest it, which he's not going to be able to do to the end of the season. You're just not going to get near 100%. But Dave, from like the cash game MME, why don't you kind of break down the Washington side of it?
I really think it starts with the status of Antonio Gibson. And, I was just looking at stuff here. It's not so sure that he's going to be out. It really, at this point, now granted, it's, we'll talk in like 14 hours, but as it stands right now, it is up in the air. So for me personally, in all formats, if Antonio Gibson plays, I'm just going to full fade Robinson because the upside that he has been, like you
Gibson
said,
hadn't been there,
Gibson hadn't been there, and he's been all of a sudden he's got as many catches and yards in the last 2 games as he's had in 2 years. So that's really what it comes down to. I don't have a problem with playing a lot of these pass catchers. My favorite is Logan Thomas. Like you said, if the Dallas defense is susceptible anywhere, it's tight ends. They're top 10 basically against all other positions, 19th. Schedule adjusted against tight ends. And Logan Thomas, to be fair, he's a beast, man. He's been getting great volume in 3,500 on DraftKings. I mean, come on. There's good enough tight ends on this slate that I think, again, another way to get different in this game is if you want to go Ferguson and Logan Thomas in the same lineup. So you're flexing a tight end. Zero problem with that at all. As a matter of fact, my cash lineup as it sits right now is going to have Ferguson and Thomas in it. So, so if I'm willing to do it in cash, I have no problem doing it in NME. Because think about it, everything that we've said, and we could be dead wrong. How many times have we thought that a team was going to blow somebody out and it doesn't happen? So I have zero problem going on the flip side of this. I know Chris is going to agree with me and going and let's stack Washington. I don't give a shit if Washington wins the game or not. What I care about is Sam Howell might throw the ball 55 fucking times tomorrow.
And it'd be low on, right? Like I don't see a lot of people picking Washington quarterback, receivers, etc.
So, and again, playing Sam Howell is going to get you a little bit different enough, right? So we want to double stack them, right? If there is going to be no Gibson, we put him with Robinson, put him with Thomas. If people are stacking, that game with Howell, are they doing it with Robinson and with Thomas? You're going to be probably in the minority there. Now, if you want to get even more different, you're playing a Millie Maker or something, right? I have zero problem the way that this offense, works to play the Dallas defense against that same stack. Because, again, we don't care about points.
Right.
Sam Howell can score, can throw 5 touchdowns.
He's proved it all year.
Yeah, I don't care. But, we want him to get those sacks. We want him to throw maybe a couple of picks. So, as crazy as it sounds, now this has a lot to do with it being such a small slate. I would have zero problem if your game stack in that game goes Sam Howell, Brian Robinson, Logan Thomas, Jake Ferguson. Now I can play CeeDee Lamb if I want to, and then I throw the Dallas defense in there as well. How many people are going to have that combination of 6 players from that game?
Me and you, Dave.
Not a whole lot. So I can play a very ridiculously chalky CeeDee Lamb in that lineup because I have differentiated myself with the rest of that game. And so I can just say, I have it, do whatever I want then.
All right, before we move on to the third game, how many sacks does Dallas get this week? We know that I think Washington's given up 5 or more sacks. It's like in 8 to 10 games. Let's go around. Chris, how many sacks Dallas getting?
Really quick, I have Sam Howell attempting 45 to 46 passes for like 293-ish yards. But sacks, let's say, are we doing Prices Right rules where you're going to write it down? If we go over, we're already.
I'm writing it down.
We should.
I am writing them down.
Yeah, I will do 6 exactly.
Joe,
I'll take 7.
You son of a bitch. Dave?
That's what I had before.
I was gonna say 6.
One
Do I have to? I'll
That's
go
true.
5. I'll go 5 because I would have went 6, and if I didn't go 6, I would have went 7. So I'll go 5.
You want 6?
It's crazy.
To be fair, I'll go 9. If you want 6, we'll have 6 and 9. Nice, and we can move on.
All right. I was gonna say with the Price is Right rules, with the way it was, normally it would make the most sense for me to obviously take 4 because I get 4, but not in this game. Y'all taking
12?
6.
We're doing 12.
I'll go 5. Maybe they have a decent showing, but before we move on that final game, because you said you kind of brought this up, Dave. I think with the small slate and looking at the defenses, this is the one time I kind of want to have either Dallas or San Francisco, I think, in a cash game lineup.
Yeah, I have Dallas just for what it's worth.
I mean, to be fair,
I don't know how you don't. In cash, I don't know how you don't play Dallas this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
But to be fair, Green Bay is just literally like the Walking Dead at this point. We mentioned earlier, not more than I mean, in the Lions at home, again, they're giving up, if I'm not mistaken, on average 23-ish points, just from memory, 23-something points a game. Again, the Lions should have no problem getting to 30 points, and they're going to give up, 20 to Green Bay in Jordan Love. Again, don't care how many points are scored. We want sacks and turnovers, and how successful is that offense going to be with kind of, second, third string practice squad guys. And again, they're just going to be completely amped up at home after what happened last week. Ford Field is already elected. The Lions could have no wins and Ford Field would still be electric on Thanksgiving. And now, given what's going on.
I mean, giving up the rally tail, what? I mean, how couldn't it be? Get that thing going there.
This is from Thanksgiving Day, November 23rd, 2006. The Dolphins.
Joe's face.
The Dolphins played here in Detroit, and they had it one on each chair like this, and it's weird.
I think that's super cool. I mean,
it looks like a sex toy, if we're being honest. That's
it might be.
Could be a button.
Depends on who you are.
Yeah, I wore out the nub part that goes in my.
I will though completely counter what Chris just said though. I think obviously Dallas and the 49ers are going to be the two defenses everyone's going to play. So I think that people will want to get different without going and playing like Seattle. And I think some people are going to play Detroit. And I think Detroit's actually a terrible play for defense this week because when I'm looking here, Jordan Love's not taking a whole bunch of sacks, about maybe 2 a game. And the Lions outside of Hayden Hutchinson have been getting pressure on the quarterback, but they don't really get a lot of sacks.
Maybe around turnovers, right?
Yeah, not a ton of turnovers either. Jordan Love also is now here throwing interceptions. So, I think you maybe you get a pick out of Love. Maybe the Lions get 2 or 3 sacks, and I think that's about it. So I don't have any interest in the Lions defense this week. But again, it's so volatile. Yeah, they could end up being optimal, but I just from my perspective, I have just taken them out of my pool for everything this week.
And Dave, to be fair, given given the situation, sometimes we got to throw out all that analytics nonsense, and we want Love, for DFS purposes. We're all in on Love for DFS, so we are expecting a certain amount of points for Love just because we want him in our DFS lineups. Sometimes we can toss around all that bullshit and just go, you know what? I'm a Lions fan. They're playing at home. I'm just going to be rooting for their defense.
Fuck it is basically what you're saying.
Yeah,
I like it
just for the heck of it. And again, this is the way I treat bottom of the barrel, where it's just like. Every week I do that, and I just toss out names just for the heck of it, just based on I can polish a turd and sell it to you any which way. And to be fair, that's why I love Thanksgiving, because it's just like whatever happens, and if you blow $20-$30, it is what it is. But to me, I'm just going to throw in the Lions just for the hell of it, because they're our hometown team, right? And all analytics nonsense aside.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best. It is a 3-game slate, though, too. And to me, a 3-game slate is a fucking slate, right? Like,
that's true. Yeah.
If you're ever gonna just be ridiculous, this is a week where you can get ridiculous, and it may not kill you. I mean, if someone
there's just enough variation where you're not automatically gonna share with everybody, but it's also there's not that many different, avenues to go, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody were to tell me that, any other week this season, if they were going to tell me, hey, I'm playing Rico Dowdle and, Shoemaker in the same lineup, I go, why don't you just give me like $10 and I'll save you the effort, right?
I'd be like, who's your drug dealer is what I want.
Yeah, on this particular one, if you want to get chalky everywhere and then bring it back and say, I'm going to play Rico Dowdle and I'm going to play Shoemaker, I would say, all right, well, an MME, I'm good with that. But this is the only week you can do that. This is a fuck it week.
Rico and Chris, what's his name? Chris Gonzalez. No, Chris Rodriguez Jr.
Yeah,
Rodriguez.
He's like he's their rookie running back. What is he, third string or something like that? If this paints a picture at all, some of the optimizer that I use doesn't even have Antonio Gibson. When you hit optimize and under the Washington side, they've already excluded him completely. I mean, you can add him in, but again,
I hope that's true because I really do like Robinson if he's out. And
it'd be nice to have. We want as many plays as we can on a 3-game slate.
Yeah.
They have Brian Robinson Jr. and Chris Rodriguez Jr. And so it's like, well, if it's like they're telling you, it's like right there in front of you. We just got to be of sound mind to see it, and it is what it is. But Chris, what I say, Rodriguez Jr. only $4,700 on Fanduel. That'd be crazy.
That's cheap on Fanduel. The night game, no surprise to me and Joe Matz because we were both all over Brock Purdy last week. I know you had him mentioned as well, Chris, in your article. Dave, were you on him last week? I'm sorry, I missed y'all's actual show.
It was between him and Kyler Murray for my cash.
It was kind of a slam dunk because it was a great matchup.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of hilarious to see the sky is falling for the 49ers young quarterback when he played the Cleveland Browns, one of the best defenses in the league. He gets concussed, and then miraculously, it never happens, gets cleared for the following week. And if you have ever looked on anything into concussions, it takes a while to get over them. He has a bye, and now all of a sudden, San Francisco offense looks like San Francisco offense. It also has a lot to do. It also has a lot to do with the fact that Deebo Samuel's back, Trent Williams is back, and that offense really is what it is when it's got all pieces going. But from this game, obviously we know, is it Charbonnet? Is that how you pronounce it? I think he's going to be owned by just about everybody. It's a great price. He's averaging, I believe it's like 4.9 yards per rush attempt, over 5 yards per reception. I like him because the 49ers, they're a good rush defense, absolutely, but they have given up a touchdown 3 of their last 5. They've given up receptions in recent games, and you got 2 kind of similar backs to him, pass catching, can do it all backs, and Joe Mixon and Rachaad White both scored 17-plus points in PPR formats versus his defense in the last 3 weeks. But Ayuk is the guy, with Purdy that really intrigues me because if you look at what they've been doing, really all season, it's just, do you trust – obviously in this slate and MME it doesn't matter, but how much do you trust Purdy in what is really a difficult environment under any circumstances in Seattle, but especially a Thursday night Thanksgiving game where I assume that crowd is going to be lit? Anybody?
I was waiting. Yeah, we were just waiting. You've been doing a good job of directing us. So
I'm sorry.
I didn't want
to. That's my fault. That's conductor's fault. I wanted to see what to take. Go ahead, Dave.
For me, I think I'm so in on the other games that this is going to be the forgotten game for me. The problem for San Francisco for me is a great real life problem. And they've got so many mouths there to feed. And you could make the same case in Detroit as well, I guess, and Dallas. But
they're like the Georgia Bulldogs of college football.
I just don't know where I would want to go. I could make a case for a lot of guys. CMC would be the guy that if I'm going to play anybody, I'm going to play. I look at Seattle here, 26 schedule adjusted fantasy points to running back. So, that's enticing.
And could you see them again, a tough environment, lean into that by give the ball to CMC a lot, not ask our young quarterback to do too much?
Yeah, when it comes to my cash lineup, kind of my question where my lineup revolves is CMC or St. Brown because I'm locked in other places and I have enough room for another stud, and it's which one of those 2 guys. And I keep going. So normally I would lean towards, when it's kind of a toss-up, I lean towards a running back in cash or a little safer, right? I am going St. Brown. It's not because I'm a Lions fan.
Golf indoors.
It's just the way that I think it works
out. Talking about the deep pass numbers, there's a lot of things. Yeah.
So all these guys. Ayuk's a fine play if you want to go there. Debo is fine. Kittle's fine. CMC's fine. Purdy's fine. But nobody. There's just guys in the other games that stand out to me to the point where, as it sits right now, I don't think outside of CMC I have any Niners that I'm really interested in playing.
What about can I interest you in the defense? Who since the Chase Young
the
trade,
defense, it's going to be the
17
Cowboys or
points
Niners
allowed,
for me.
9 sacks, 6 turnovers forced, like just in 2 games. The injury to their corner or safety does scare me a little bit. They got a rookie now playing, but I like the Niners. I'm with you that the Cowboys in cash game is the play, but I do think it's close. And Seattle has had issues at times. You're not going to be able to get through a show, Gator J, without a Go Dogs. He's just jealous because he's a Florida fan. It's okay. Joe Matz, can I interest you in Jackson Smith this week? Or because I can't stand DK and Lockett. I never pick the right receiver. It never fails. Whichever one I go with, the other one goes off. But I do like Jackson Smith at his price. Is that somebody that you're interested in this week?
That is someone I'm interested in this week. According to FTN's data, San Francisco gives up the 3rd highest amount of yards to wide receiver 3s.
Ooh.
Now, Seattle's actually dead last, but again, because of all
who would that be though at San Francisco?
Right, so that's why for San Francisco,
is it Jennings?
I'm throwing that out because there's just so many elite guys ahead of him. But when I'm looking at Seattle's offense, that is where I would look. Where again, but price point and opportunity, I think he's the guy. And then San Francisco, Debo's kind of the guy I like there, just because lower price point. And now you have to go back a ways because Debo's had some injuries and stuff. But 4 of his last 5 games against Seattle, this goes back to 2019. So again, take it with some grains of salt there. Over 100 yards in 4 of the last 5.
He seems to have teams he just torches. I know the Rams are one of those. Like
Seattle's a super heavy zone defense team. They run zone 85% of the time. It's the 3rd highest rate in the NFL. Yeah, Debo, player profilers, win rate stats. They've got him at 50% win rate versus zone, 26.5 versus man. So it's a zone team. That's what Debo carves up. So if I'm, again, CMC absolutely 100% the safest guy. He also had a great game in the playoff game. But if you need someone a little cheaper, it's Debo for me. And then if you need someone below that, and we're not trying to be super obvious with Charbonnet, then I'm with you on JSN.
Chris, he mentioned Jennings because I did not know that about the 3rd receivers. Is that somebody in that person?
You could go Ronnie Bell, University of Michigan alum.
Oh,
correct.
I didn't even see it fucking coming that time.
Well, so
that's what she said.
Zach Charbonnet, where did he start his college career?
I'm assuming Michigan.
University of Michigan.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah,
me either.
Well, Keith,
he was smart though he got out of there, but that's okay.
When you look at these rosters really quick, I'll answer your question in a moment.
Yeah,
I have actually like 3 things. There was a tweet that came out yesterday sometime, and I rarely do I like stuff. I just kind of scroll, and I had to look it up. But Brock Purdy is accountable for more touchdowns this season than Patrick Mahomes. Purdy has 20 total. Yeah. He has 20 total, and Patrick Mahomes is at 19 total. This game screams under, right? And when you look at at some of the recent betting trends, look at this one. The under has cashed in 4 of San Francisco's last 5 games in the month of November. Last I checked, tomorrow will still be November. The under has cashed in 5 of Seattle's last 7 games overall. So we got that going, and nobody has failed to mention that San Francisco 7-3, Seattle 6-4. They're in the same division. So this game would be for first place.
First time they played this year too. Yeah,
absolutely. So it could be a short-lived first place for whoever wins this one. But as it stands right now, the NFC West is kind of wide open. San Francisco wins. They bump themselves up, but this is a very important game. And Seattle and Lumen Field is always just nuts and rocking. Regardless, it's going to be cold and windy. That's what it is in Seattle. So the under in this game is an absolute must. So we said over. This is an easy parlay for anybody. I mean, you put $5 on it, you're probably guaranteed 20 or 30 bucks over in the Dallas game, under San Francisco, and bet the over again on the Detroit Green Bay game. You got a 3-leg parlay, and you're rolling. I was good. Answer your question, Juwan Jennings, Ronnie Bell. What about Jake Bobo for Seattle? I mean, JSN is their hot shot rookie, right? And he's getting some play, but you got DK and Lockett still around there. Lockett is is a dinosaur by football standards in his early 30s. But Jake Bobo, right? He's been around, and we saw him. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I didn't watch the game, but you see the replay where he scores a touchdown, and they had to replay it because he just got his tippy toes down. So Bobo's getting some roll. But again, this is one of those games. This isn't a Dallas Washington game where it's a free for all. Anything can happen. It's in a dome. Dallas is going to blow them out in a ton of points in Detroit, in Green Bay. This game is going to be tight. It's going to be, concise, got a lot of running, clock management, field position kind of thing. So to me, the only move to make it would be, the stars and the studs. Christian McCaffrey, Charbonnet is going to be 90% owned. So you want to get weird, you want to get strange. There is no weird and strange to get in this game because it's going to go, there is going to be no garbage time in the fourth quarter for a guy, like Ray McLeod, if he's even active, or Ross Dwelly, right? If he's backing up Kittle. This game is going to be about Purdy, McCaffrey.
Any love on a 49er back? Say they get up.
Eli Mitchell, absolutely. Yeah. But I just don't see that game being this way.
You're just looking to be different.
Yeah.
I think that's, and maybe a Millie Maker kind of thing. You can't get too different. But one thing we haven't even talked about is I'm pretty sure Geno Smith is going to play, but Geno Smith is not okay. Yeah, Geno Smith is not 100%. So to me, that's a more said as a cautionary tale towards, JSN. Yeah, exactly.
Anyone.
Pass catchers. And also maybe a little bit
even
of a
Charbonnet.
No, I don't think it's going to affect Charbonnet so much. Matter of fact, if Geno were to get hurt early on and they were to go to Drew Lock, that's probably great for Charbonnet. But yeah, I just wanted to make mention that the Geno injury, and I think that affects things, and that probably also helps to get me off of a lot of the Seattle game. And I agree with what Chris said. I think this could be one of those. Yeah, I mean, if this game was 2017, for example, I wouldn't be shocked. And the reason we like Charbonnet, it has a lot to do with K9 being out, but it's his price. Like he's so cheap that's why people are going to lock him in.
And the receptions he's had. You would think he had 6 last week in his first game. I think he played over 60% of snaps. Yeah. So if he plays 80 or whatever,
But I think that there's a big difference between, guys that are going to be super highly owned like Charbonnet and a guy like Dak, where it's easy to get off of Dak. I can go a different route than Dak. And so I think that makes Dak, I wouldn't necessarily say bad chalk, but that's chalk that you can avoid. A guy like Charbonnet, I think you just need to embrace that one. Me personally, I'm just going to lock 100% Charbonnet, and I'm going to just try to get different elsewhere. Yeah, you can get buried by Charbonnet.
Free square, right?
Yeah, exactly. Free square in this case. So I think that Charbonnet would be considered good chalk. There's not a lot of ways to get around playing him. I mean, obviously there is, but it's not as easy as Dak, where I can go opposite side of the field. I just play Sam Howell, and I can be fine. I can play Purdy. I can play Love. I can play Goff. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of ways to get away from Dak, but there's not a lot of ways to get off of Charbonnet.
So, Dave, I have a cash game lineup I'm going to share. Do you mind sharing yours, or do you want to leave that for Discord? I have no problem.
Happy to.
Okay, I'll go first, and then do you guys want to do one? I don't want to put you on the spot. Okay. All right, so I did this earlier this week, and I still feel pretty good about it. I am going to stack Dak with Lamb, but I'm also going to put Brandon Cooks with him, run it back with Robinson and Thomas. And then I'm going to fill it out with Jaden Reed, Jackson Smith, and the 49ers defense. And that literally leaves me with $0. But if I did not go with that, I probably would try to build a lineup with Jordan Love, get cheaper, and then, kind of give me a little bit more flexibility at the other positions. It does scare me a little bit with the CMC play because I am with Dave. I'm kind of leaning more to St. Brown, probably ends up scoring more points, a little safer play. But I'm just hoping, again, on a road game, maybe Shanahan's like, I'm really going to lean into let's just pound the rock on Seattle and try to get the hell out of here with, as Chris so greatly pointed out, this is a big game which I didn't even really think about for their division. And San Francisco knows they have a game looming with Philadelphia. I believe it's either next week or the following, that they got to keep winning. So that way that game really is important for, the number 1 seed moving forward, which it's not going to matter because the Lions are going to end up being the number 1 seed anyway. But Dave, why don't you go with your cash lineup?
So, one of the first things that I looked at was trying to jam the guys that to me stand out as, either must plays or I want to jam into my lineup. and that it revolves around Dak, CeeDee Lamb, St. Brown, and CMC. So after I just ran, for a raw optimal to see what kicks out, the first thing I did was I jammed those guys in, and I want to see, does it kick me out something reasonable? And it does not. I basically
makes me feel better. I messed with it for like 2 seconds, but
no, yeah. You basically, if you have to play Noah Fant in the flex to start to make it work, and I was like, no, I'm okay. So I didn't go that route, but I did want to mention, because if I could have fit those guys in and the rest of it was
and
good
a small
enough,
slate, just do it, right?
I probably just said I'm just gonna do it, but. So for me, I talk Dak as a guy in cash. I don't know how you don't play him. If you don't play Dak in cash, you can just cost yourself any chance to win right there. So Dak is locked in for me. I'm putting a CeeDee Lamb, same thing. If you're playing Dak in cash, you're playing CeeDee Lamb in cash. Ownership doesn't matter. I'm also putting Jake Ferguson in there. I think it was I've got Jake Ferguson in my flex, so I could go Cooks. I could go other
you
routes.
had Thomas, right, as your tight end?
Not in cash. I'm not going to know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. But so Ferguson is literally a choice over Cooks. It's not just the way the salary works. It's a choice. I'm also going, that defense, Cowboys defense. Running backs, again, you got to play Charbonnet. I don't see how you don't play Charbonnet in cash. That you just have to. Assuming that Robinson's out, or not Robinson, assuming Gibson's out, I got Robinson in there. If Gibson ends up playing, I'm going to have to redo this, and we'll see what happens. But as it stands, Robinson's in there.
Chris has already told you he's not playing, so you don't have to worry about it.
Right. I've got St. Brown in there, So, again, chose him over CMC, which is how I can put Ferguson in the flex. I got Jaden Reed in there. I think Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs pick whoever's going to score the most points, fantasy-wise from that receiving core. And then that puts me with Tucker Kraft at the tight end spot.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did not mention Reed was the other player in that lineup. I gave you 8. Reed was the 9th that rounded out that lineup.
we were relative. I was trying to keep track a little bit. We were pretty much on the same page. It's like a 3v3 for us, I think.
And I think you've talked me into I'm going to, regardless, go with Charbonnet over Robinson. That gets me up to the Dallas D, which is something I would really like to be able to do.
So you're basically almost the same line. So for me, in this particular case this week, Dak is locked in already. Charbonnet is locked in. Lamb is locked in. St. Brown is already locked in. Kraft is locked in. So there's not a lot of wiggle room for me. Robinson can come or go, depends on what happens with Gibson. If Gibson is out, you can add Robinson to that list. Then that just would honestly leave me with a wide receiver and the defense spot. The defense is either going to be the Cowboys or Niners. And either way, with the salary that leaves me, I'm probably stuck playing Jaden Reed. So really the difference could be, do I want to play the Dallas defense or the 49ers defense? I could afford both. I would take the Dallas defense unless I had to save the cash there. So my cash lineup probably has just completely built itself. There's not a whole lot of manipulation on my end, really.
Chris, are you ready to go? Because since Joe decided to show up 20 minutes fastly late, we'll let him go last with his cash game lineup.
Yeah, and Larry Horn Jr. is right. He's speaking my language, right? And I want to show you a picture first. I always
and a Braves fan. Good for you, Larry. Go Braves.
I always build a line from my gut, whenever the main slate is made available, and then I build off that from the week, and it's kind of like a chart, right? If it focuses in
a flow chart in it.
Yeah, that's my first gut, and then I branch out from there. So unlike Dave, there is a lot of wiggle room in this lineup, and I'll explain it as briefly as possible. And of course, I'm starting off with Jared Goff, and I'm stacking up Gibbs and Montgomery. I've done it all year. I drafted the trio in this fishbowl, and I've made the playoffs. So it's not like you're not going to surprise anybody, but they can get it done. I went back to back with Ayuk and Deebo Samuel here, and then I put Jamison Williams in that last wide receiver spot. And then I love the idea of that double tight end, Logan Thomas in my tight end and Jake Ferguson in my flex spot. And then the San Francisco 49ers DST. Now That was my initial gut lineup that I built probably 2-3 days ago. And you have $600 left. So what I do is then I build the same lineup 1,000 different ways, and I just mix and match different pieces. I've always built like that. That's just in my nature. So you can swap out San Francisco, you can put in Dallas, and boom, you have no money left. You can swap out, let's say, Deebo Samuel and put in DK Metcalf, right? So there, again, a lot of wiggle room. You can take out Ayuk, and you can pop in Amon-Ra St. Brown, but then you're going to have to, I think you would have to get rid of Ferguson, but then you'd be able to put in Charbonnet in the flex spot. So this initial first build for me is always how it's done, the flow chart, and we roll from there. So I have heavy exposure to the Lions. Why not? It's the first game of the slate. That's the only crappy thing.
It goes bad. You can do a bunch of showdown lineups, right? You'll know where you stand.
Exactly. And they say, that late game hammer, but I just don't see San Francisco and Seattle in a reason that's going to completely derail anybody's lineups if you're rolling after the first two games. But again, in a game, San Francisco and Seattle, I do like the idea of Ayuk and Samuel. And I've built it where, I'll put in DK with Deebo, and then I'll put in DK with Ayuk, and then vice versa, and just constantly swapping and swapping around here. But that is my first build. I'll read it slowly if anybody wants to write it down, and we'll go from there. There you go.
Yes, go ahead, buddy.
Gibbs at the running back, David Montgomery. You run it back with Golf, Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Jamison Williams for like a 30-40 yard bomb. Let's just call it an 80-yard touchdown pass.
I love it. Yep.
And then Dave was speaking my language. He was the one who mentioned Ferguson and Logan Thomas, bing bang boom, back to back in the same lineup. And then the San Francisco 49ers, and then enter that one, then put in Dallas and enter that one, and you have two lineups and you're off and running.
And I meant to ask you guys, because this is something I think about a lot, and then we'll get to Joe's lineup. You having $600 left, is that another way, Dave, that you would think you can differentiate, right, is by leaving a little extra salary in a small slate than you normally would?
In cash, I'm not trying to get different. In cash,
I'm talking about MME. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in MME, I mean, if you're using an optimizer, if you want to go ahead and just set your minimum salary, at, I don't know, I mean, you probably don't want to get too crazy, but if you want to set it at, 49.5, that's a way to start. I mean, if you really want to get different, I guess you could go like 49 or something, but that might be getting a little too off the board for a normal 20 max. I think you're better off getting cute by, like I said, doing two tight ends and, quadruple stacking.
Taking a shot with a really low play guy.
Yeah, just pick a game and say, I'm
all in.
I'm just all in. You want to triple stack it and then do two bringbacks. But yes, I mean, if you want to get a little different on salary, I mean, I think you could very easily set it at $500 less than the max, and that's naturally going to get you a little bit different.
All right, Joe, I hope your lineup is as good as your Arizona Wildcats have been at football. Holy smokes, bro.
Yeah, the dream season for the football team. Hopefully that continues, because it would be quite a come down to then lose to ASU after all this. And then actually the basketball team plays Michigan State tomorrow.
Already beat Duke.
Basketball too. So super busy day. This is one of those ones where, I found some guys I liked, and then I kept moving it around, trying to figure out the exact, tinker. And my flex spot, I don't really know what to do with, but I'll give you the rest. So I'm all in. Yeah, Dak, CD Lamb, that combo, 100% going in my lineups. I feel really good about David Montgomery in that Green Bay game. I'm not going to think twice about Charbonnet in a cash game. Like I said, I'm really high on Deebo, so I've got him. Jaden Reed, 4,200. Like Logan Thomas, again, I think that price point you got to feel good about. And I really want the Dallas D, and then I have 5,500 left, and I'm just bouncing around going like, do I go to Green Bay wide receivers, throw Dobbs in just because, I mean, Love's been thrown for 300 yards. I think they're going to be losing this whole game. So I think that'll actually be my play, is just going in on Dobbs and Reed, because for whatever reason, Christian Watson has no chemistry at all with Jordan Love. So I'll go with that one. You could talk me into a Laporta. You could talk me into Rico Dottle and just have like $900 left, because I do think that play makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm going to double up in the Green Bay receivers. So that's Dak with CD, Montgomery and Charbonnet as my running backs. Debo, Reed, and Dobbs rounding out the receivers in the flex. Logan Thomas at tight end, and the Dallas defense. And $500 left over.
500 left over. That's what I was going to ask you.
That's a nice steak dinner.
Yeah, if only I could pocket it.
Yeah, I know, right? Jeez.
All right, guys. I think we got through that. I really do want to thank you guys for coming on, having our first orgy of DFS Den meets F6P. Okay, that's probably
Let's
the
work
wrong
on
word.
our terminology.
Yeah, I know.
Chris is dropping
We saw
69s. Joe's late doing God only knows what, and then you're talking orgies. I'm the only clean one here.
We've got the Detroit Lions.
We got a butt plug over here. I mean, this is off the rails.
With the feather, which I really like.
Maybe this should be
called
call this the DFS kink off instead of kickoff.
But I'm very,
that's how we get the viewers.
Very thankful for you guys and for Fantasy Six Pack. And, obviously this is something that we do because we love it. And it's been just amazing to have Chris and Dave to, bounce ideas off and really learn from. Joe, I don't learn anything from you. I pretty much I just take your word as gospel, especially when it's wide receivers. But I really do. I enjoy, not only just making content with you guys, but just, the text threads and stuff and making fun of each other. But before we get out of here, let's, talk about whatever you want to promote and kind of give us your Thanksgiving routine. What is your normal Thanksgiving day? I kind of want to hear it.
I'll go first.
Okay, go.
Thanksgiving routine is pretty lame, especially these days. Try to be as quiet as I can until my son wakes up. Sitting here building lineups, getting everything all set to go, and then just watching football, hanging out. Just I'll have to bring the PlayStation upstairs into his bedroom so he can play Call of Duty while I watch TV downstairs.
3 feet from the PlayStation upstairs.
Yep. He'll need to be within 3 feet for sure.
Gotta get the right angle.
Gotta have the right angle, yeah. But yeah, I mean, pretty lame, pretty weak sauce, but that's the answer to your question.
I love it. Joe, what about you? Other than watching the Wildcats?
Yeah, which normally is not a Thanksgiving tradition, but the last couple of years since I moved back to Arizona, it's half the family's like down here, half in Phoenix. So we drive up to Phoenix, watch football, eat a lot of food, drive back, make sure one of us is sober, and there you go. You're good to go.
I love it. Chris?
Wake up, have some coffee, hang with Beastie in the morning, and set some time aside while I'm having coffee with Beastie, and start editing my lineups. I have a ton of them already for the $1. It's the sweet potato dive. That's the one I'm in. There's 83,000 plus people. First place is like 10 grand or something. Should be a great morning and afternoon. And yeah, mother, uncle, just hanging out here with Beastie. So I appreciate everybody. Bottom of the barrel. Running backs was published a few hours ago. You want to catch up on quarterbacks, running backs for the main slate on Sunday, which is only 10 games, and we'll get to that. But let's get over the hump and cross the Thanksgiving Day bridge first. Wish everybody
and the Black Friday game, which I forgot to.
Yeah, I know, that's right. Weird
Black Friday game.
I don't think a lot of people are going to end up watching that. I think that's going to get
Tim Bowl, as yikes. Thanksgiving, we have, in recent years, me and my wife have been together 10 years, married 6. I'm very happy that her parents moved down to where me and my parents live, because used to we had to drive like 2 hours and it was a pain in the ass on Thanksgiving. So now literally we put the animals in the car, ride 15 minutes over to the in-laws. My parents go over there. My mother-in-law is the best. She has the bong ready. Literally the second you get over there, and I just get
bongs and butt plugs.
Oh, it's fantastic. The only tricky situation is, let's just say my father and father-in-law are different ends of the political spectrum. So we have to really be careful that, one of us is always watching the conversation and it's not getting into that, kind of red area where it's like, oh shit, it's about to go down. But very excited for Thanksgiving, anytime with family. is something you should hold on to, because you never know how long the people you love are going to be there. So you should appreciate every moment you get with them. I really do appreciate you guys taking time out to, do this with us. And we got to do this again. This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you for $50 again, I'll be happy to do it. No problem.
I figured you would, hold me up for ransom and it would double next time, but you're a good man.
No,
you're a man of integrity.
No, yeah, 50's fine.
Well, guys, have a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm sure we will be texting each other, talking smack. I got these lineups. I will send them to everybody, as well as the sack total, and we'll have a little something to keep up with and have fun tomorrow. But be sure to check out all the amazing work on Fantasy Six Pack. I believe me and Joe are still going to do a show this week, Joe?
Yes, we will still be doing one on Friday.
It's going to be recorded. I think it's going to be recorded Friday. I'm not sure when it'll get out, but it will be out for the game. So you guys doing a show this week?
Yeah, we're going live just like usual. At 7:30, I think, on Friday. I mean, it's a regular week for us. We just happen to have a little bit of an appetizer on Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Man, I'm going to tell you, you will not find anybody at these guys' level doing a live show on Friday after Thanksgiving. That's why I love you guys, and you're two of the hardest working people in the business. So that's awesome. That's something for me to look forward to. Guys, take care. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll see you soon.